Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Centaurworld Ep8. And yeah, I'm just going to say this right off the bat. I'm recording this after I recorded the first impressions to Smiling Friends, which, as of the time you're seeing this, was like, what, weeks ago? A couple weeks ago or something? A few weeks ago. But yeah, it's like, I need something that will lift me up right now. And it's like, this series has been, like, doing so much heavy lifting for my mood. And it's just like, this is a great choice, but just letting you know, if I seem down or out of it at the start here at all, that's why. If you watched my first impressions to Smiling Friends, you hopefully should understand. But yeah, last episode was phenomenal. On rewatches, it was even better than my initial first impressions. Zulius is fucking fabulous. Zulius is MVP of that episode by far, and Zulius is goddamn reaching to try and get to the top of my favorite characters list. I already liked Zulius. I thought he was really funny. I thought he was fabulous. I thought he was really likable, just generally. But last episode just really nailed it. On top of just being really funny, on top of the universe time-stopping power that makes the atoms in their bodies burn, which, holy fuck. Even on top of all of that, like, Zulius was so beautiful to Horse last episode. He was so supportive, so loving. Just, he was amazing. Like, you guys know, I obviously have a lot of love for Glendale. I obviously have a lot of love for Wamawink. But goddamn did Zulius just gain some massive points for me. But on top of that, we also had the fucking ending. Because, oh my god, we can't just have a nice, happy episode that makes me feel good. We have to make me feel horrified. Because that ending, that reprise of the Nowhere King song is genuinely scarier than the original version we heard. The original version was pretty fucking scary. Like, legitimately scary. But that was like, holy shit. And the freaky-ass cat tars obviously lent to that, but the vocal performances as well. It is specifically the vocal performances. Like, oh my god. And then on top of everything that had been happening lately, and with Horse's tail, like, saying this is only the beginning in episode 6, it's just like, fuck. And it's just like, but the biggest highlight of the episode is what still keeps it mostly happy for me. Because the biggest highlight of last episode was easily Horse and her self-confidence and self-love. Horse's character arc has been phenomenal. And, like, I really didn't know how she was going to develop and grow as this went along. But my god, has it been absolutely stunningly phenomenal. She's grown so much in such a short amount of time, but it feels natural. It feels like it's been the right amount of time. It feels like it's been paced out properly. Despite it not even being 10 episodes yet. To go from someone who was overconfident to acknowledging, or to refusing to acknowledge her fears and her worries and her concerns and her issues, to finally acknowledging them, and then to finally accepting them. She went through, like, all these stages of self-acceptance and love. And when she finally accepted herself, not for what she's like believed herself to be, but for who she truly is and for who she has become, it allowed her to transform further into a form more suited for Centaurworld. And I think that's an absolutely fantastic and absolutely beautiful representation of finding yourself, of just growing as a person. Because that's what Horse's character arc entirely represents. Self-growth, self-reflection, coming to realize who you are and living that truth. And I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to fucking say it. And I know I talk about this a lot and use this a lot, but I don't give a fuck. I'm going to keep using it because it's important to me. As a trans girl, the messages, the themes, the ideas hit hard. The themes of self-love and acceptance, and even becoming like the physical manifestation of your true self once you accept that true self. Like, my God, can you honestly look at this and not tell me that there is not, even if unintentionally, some heavy transgender theming there? Like, come on, even if it's unintentional, it is so blatantly fitting. And it's amazing. And even outside of that, it's obvious how much anyone can get from this kind of thing. Self-acceptance issues go deep for a lot of people. And so there's more than just trans people who need to hear messages like that. And while it did freak her out, it's like, again, she took that form because she came to terms with a lot about herself. Because despite everything that she's gone through, despite how hard it is, she deserves it. And the big question of the song and of the episode at that point was, who is she? And it's not just a question for a catchy song. It's a question that Horse has been pondering. Since coming to Centaurworld, since unwittingly joining this herd, since having to deal with a lot of emotions and things that she has never had to deal with before. You know that question's been lingering in her mind. Who is she? Who is she without Ryder? Who is she in this strange land? Who is Horse? And she got her answer. She's odd, but determined. She's a fighter, but she's still scared. She's strong, but imperfect. And despite those imperfections, she's worth it. She's worth finding her rider, but also finding herself. And if this series didn't already prove itself to be something truly special with episode 4, which I'm recording this on the same day I uploaded episode 4, if if that episode didn't already prove this series to be something special, episode 7 damn well did. It proved Centaurworld to be not just some silly, goofy, ridiculous show centered around these bright and colorful, stupidly ridiculous characters. It's a series about war, about self-acceptance, self-love, and worth. It's about fears and imperfections. It's about embracing your inner weirdo. And I feel that they said it best in the Owl House. Us weirdos gotta stick together. That's one of the biggest themes of this series. Found family. And you guys know how fucking much that trope matters to me. Because I've talked about it enough. This series is about found family. And about your own self-discovery. Messages that are excessively important to me. And have made this show go from something that's just really good to something that's important. And I feel a lot of people have resonated with this, besides just myself. And these are just my fucking pre-thoughts, and I'm already crying. Just talking about last episode. I have no fucking idea what's going to happen here. I don't know if we're going to get another shaman yet, another piece of the key. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's only 3 episodes left, including this one. There's only 10 episodes in the season. And if I'm being at all honest, I'm not ready for it to end. So I'm going to do something that I don't really ever do. At least not these days, really. I'm going to do something, and I'm announcing it now. But I'll talk about it more in the coming reactions, coming episodes. I'm going to do something that I almost never do these days with reactions. We're not taking a break. Between seasons 1 and 2, we are not taking a break. We're going straight into season 2 after season 1. And in some ways, I could see the negatives of that. Because it's like, on one hand, I'll get done with it sooner, and I'm going to be depressed when it's over. And also not having that break is, you know, how I talked about how I value having like breaks in between things and all. But it's like, there's a certain point where it's just, I am so actively invested in this that I if I stop, it will ruin everything else. Because it'll be on my mind so actively, so continuously, that it'll completely distract me from everything else I'm supposed to be reacting to. And I won't be able to focus. And I can't have that happen for obvious reasons. So, yeah. If there were more people out there that reacted to this series, that would help. But there's not. There are very few reactors I've seen react to this series. I found a couple, but nowhere near enough. If there were more, that could help tide me over, but still. And the plan is still to get back to and give Tiger and Bunny one last chance after we are done with Centaurworld. But yeah, we're not taking a break. I would not be able to handle having a break there. There's certain shows where it's like I can handle it, I can wait, even if I'm really super hyped over the show, like Owl House. And maybe that kind of tells you where I'm at with this series, but I can't wait. And maybe it's also just because I do know everything is already out and I can just get through it. But yeah, I won't be able to. I already know that, because even just waiting between recording the episodes currently has been, even if it's just a matter of days, it's been hell. And I've just resorted to listening to the songs over and over, just because I want as much content as possible. But I also have to record other stuff. And it's like, plus I have to take breaks just to keep myself from burning out. But yeah, so I wanted to go over this all and tell you about this ahead of time. Just to kind of get it out of the way. So yeah, we will not be taking a seasonal break. We will be going straight into season 2 after we finish season 1. It's probably still going to be one episode at a time, though, because I still want to pace myself out enough to where it doesn't like go too fast. Because if I started going through it like multiple episodes in each video, it would be too fast. It would be too much, and I would just be not okay with it getting too close to ending. So we're still going to go with one episode at a time for now. Either way, we should probably get this started. I apologize for the lighting in here. The time I'm recording this, it's late at night. It's 7:30. I wouldn't say late at night, but it's night. So it's not really dark, but it's gotten darker enough to where it's affected the lighting. And yeah, the lighting in this room has never been great as it is, so I apologize for the lighting. Either way, we're going to get into this, hope for the best, and see what this next episode has in store, and if it can be anywhere near as good as episodes 4 or 7. So, when the screen fades black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up. Carl Farolo, probably mispronouncing that. If I am, I apologize. Was the voice of Grenda in Gravity Falls. I thought so. It's kind of a distinct voice, I feel. But that being said, this episode, I don't know if it's just because I was really expecting it. I don't know if it was just because I was like just actively like trying to keep myself from crying, but it didn't make me cry. But it got really fucking close at a couple of points. And it's just like, this series, I have mentioned it before and everything, but it's like it's really special. Sorry if you heard that. I just heard like a little ding go off for like Discord or whatnot. This series is really special. It's become something like that I would have never guessed it would be this big of a deal for me. And yet it is. And I love it so much for that. And this episode dealt with something that is very heavy for me. I talked about in the pre-thoughts how prior to this I recorded my first impressions to Smiling Friends. And I didn't go too heavy into detail, but the big reason why Smiling Friends why my first impressions that bothered me so much and got me into like kind of a negative mindset is because of the way it handled its topic of depression and suicide. The way it handled it was shocking, frightening, and intense. Which depression and suicide can be, to be fair. But because of my personal experiences with depression and suicide attempts, it bothered me on a very deep emotional level. And so I went to watch this because it's like, oh, this series has been fantastic for me and has been such an uplifting show that always just gets my mood to be so much higher than it had been before watching an episode. So I thought, like, oh, this will be a perfect pick-me-up. And this episode is about fucking depression and suicide. And it's just like, thanks for that. But also thanks for that. The Smiling Friends first impressions put me in a bad place. And I didn't completely go down into that dark hole as far as I could have. But even so, I was not feeling good. On any level. Like, it made me physically hurt. It made me mentally and emotionally hurt. But the way this episode of Centaurworld handled these same subjects helped me so much. This is how to handle this kind of topic in a way that makes it very clear how heavy it is, how crushing and painful it is, but also in a way that's not just shocking, but actually something that's really helpful. Horse is starting to forget Ryder's face. She's scared and depressed because she fears that she's not worthy to see Ryder anymore. So she's willing to throw herself into the whale tar's mouth, basically committing an equivalent of suicide to be rid of that pain forever. And just like can be often the case in real life, not always, and it's always different for every person who experiences depression and suicide attempts, but like can often happen, she needed someone to help bring her back out of it. And in this case, it was her surrogate mother. And with a core message of it's okay to be sad. And that feeling sad, feeling depressed isn't anything to be ashamed of, isn't anything to look down on, but it's something that's normal. That you just have to remember that you have those who love you and who want to do everything in their power to make you happy, to make you smile. It's a message that I needed to hear. After watching the first impressions to Smiling Friends, I was brought to a dark place. To not as far as I'd been in the past, but I was very much brought into those memories, into those pains, into those hardships to, again, where I needed something to help me. I was sinking, and I needed that rope to be thrown. And in here, and again in this episode, it tells us that that's normal. That's a normal feeling. It's something that we all go through to some degree at some point. But that there will always be someone to help bring us out of it. For me, when I was in the midst of the heaviest parts of my depression, I was brought out of it because of My Little Pony. And through that series, I decided to check out other shows that I probably would have never watched otherwise. And it gave me life again. And even though it wasn't like a specific person in my real life, I had that character for me, who in my circumstance pulled me out of that pit of depression. For me, it was Pinkie Pie. And it's funny, when I first went into this, having only seen like tiny little like bits of images and maybe a clip or two, my initial impressions, just based off her look, was that Wamawink was going to be like Pinkie Pie. And she is. Just not in the way I expected. Not in terms of her personality and energy, but her heart, her love, the parts that matter. Having been in that heavy depression, I connected hard with Horse here. Having been through that pain. Maybe for different reasons, but still, I felt that. And I empathized with her. More than I had previously in the series, which I already had been. And then when Wamawink came to save her, to remind her of what was important, to show her love, that even though things will be dark sometimes, that even though she herself has gone through some dark and horrible stuff, she found family. True family. Not just the people we're born connected to, but the family we choose. I mentioned in the pre-thoughts that found family, as I've said before, is one of, if not the biggest theme a series can go with for me. It's the most important, the most emotionally resonant for me. It's almost never done wrong. I don't think I've ever seen a found family trope done wrong. It might exist, I just can't think of anything. It's so important to me to see that theme in anything, but especially animation, because it's not just going to help me, it's going to help so many people. People going through depression, people whose family have abandoned them, or who just don't have family for one reason or another. An episode like this is important. And for what at base level appears to be a silly little cartoon about goofy, ridiculous characters singing about talking farts and building houseboats and stuff, for a series like that, it's not like that. It's Again, a series about war, a series about self-worth and acceptance, about love and family, about depression and suicide, but about hope as well. I've said before that this series could easily be in my top 10. It's without question in my top 10. And it's without question in my top 5. As for exactly where it would go, I have to wait and see. But as of now, as of current, it is in my top 5 for sure. I needed this today. I needed this in general. And so many others would need this too. And we can't just expect everyone to see this series. We have to be the Wamawinks in our world. We have to help and be there for our loved ones when they're feeling down, and do our best to help so that it doesn't go down a more terrible route. And again, as I said, it's not always that simple. It's different for each person. No two experiences with depression are the same, and not everyone will be able to be helped that way. It's a difficult and horrible subject that I don't know if we'll ever fully know how to handle. But we have to try. Because if we don't help, someone may not be here much longer to be helped. If I didn't find this stupid little cartoon about talking ponies, I wouldn't be here right now. If I hadn't found that on that day, I would have slit my own throat. I literally had the knife in hand when I found the clip, the YouTube, the ridiculous YouTube video based off of My Little Pony that got me interested to check out the series in the first place and took my mind off of my depression and helped me eventually fight against it. I'm glad that I had help. Even if it wasn't in the normal way, I'm glad that there was something that brought me out of that. And again, we can't just rely on everyone being able to see this series or MLP or any other show that could possibly help them. We have to be there for them. We have to show them that love. We have to show them that they're worth it. That they matter. Because if we don't, who will? We can't just assume someone else will be there for them. I made jokes and laughed and had fun watching this because of the humor around it, the fucking Dakimakura. I loved the whale tar being so absolutely stunningly beautiful. But in the end, yeah, the true highlight of this episode was its themes. And everything that I feel it's telling us. As I said, I needed this today. I watched something that put me in such a bad place mentally, emotionally, and even physically. And even without that, I had not been feeling the best lately. I again, more emotionally on that regard. I needed this episode. And the fact that it came along right when I needed it. The same day I reacted to that Smiling Friends episode, First Impressions. The same day I had already been having some emotional issues. It feels weird to call it destiny or something like that. So instead, I'll call it love. In some way, there was love looking out for me. Whether you want to view it as an act of God, or if you don't believe in God, just an act of circumstance, of nature. Or even if you want to view it as destiny. Either way, this was just such perfect timing for me. And it's part of the reason, admittedly, that I'm now viewing this series as being in my top 5. And I'm just gonna say, if this continues like this, it could reach Owl House levels. I'm not even joking. And you guys know how much I fucking love Owl House. You guys know how important that is to me. And I want to thank all of you for joining me on this ride. And for voting for this in the first place. This has just far surpassed any expectations I could have had. And it's become important to me. Just like My Little Pony had been. Just like other shows like Owl House are. It's become important to me. And just another reason why we are not taking a break between seasons 1 and 2. I think it's more apparent now than ever that if I did take a break, I would lose my fucking mind. It would affect everything else I tried recording. It would be completely the only thing on my mind, to the point where I would not be able to focus on anything else. And that is the best feeling in the world. I always talk about how my goal with anything I watch on here, my hope is that it becomes my new favorite show. That is what I want from anything I react to, that it becomes my new favorite show. That is my number one wish. So when I find a series that actually does reach me in that way, it's like, it literally warms my heart. It is the most comforting, warming feeling, as if I had like a blanket wrapped around me, as simply as that is. A cup of cocoa in my hands. And the dog asleep, cuddling up next to me. Just the comfiest feeling you can imagine. Especially when it's something this important and this emotionally resonant for me. It's beyond something special. It's something important. And it's something that I think I will always look upon fondly. Because I'm telling you right fucking now, if this series somehow fucks itself up at this point, if it somehow takes a dive, it is going to be the most infuriating. I don't think I'll have ever been angry or anything. Because this series is doing so much for me, and if it messes itself up at any point before the season 2 finale, the series finale, it's almost going to be like feeling betrayed. It's just going to feel so painful. But at the same time, I have full faith that it's not going to do that. I have full faith that it's going to stick the landing. And if it sticks the landing hard enough, I'm telling you right now, it's going to do something really special for me that almost nothing else has ever done. If it sticks the landing that hard, it's going to be like a whole new level of special for me. It's just, I don't even know, like, I don't even know how hype I could get over this, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll see. I'm sorry if a lot of these afterthoughts had just been me talking about emotions and depression and stuff, but it was the core theme of this episode. It was the big focus. And I think that it was important to talk about. And so I'm very happy that Horse was brought back out of that and is able to see the love that her new herd has for her. And that they're going to do everything to help her reach Ryder again. No matter what. And I'm telling you already, you know they're going to reunite, and when they do, I am going to cry like a fucking baby. I will lose it. I'm telling you that now. I'm going to cry. But I also might cry when the Nowhere King finally appears, because he's fucking scary just by name recognition alone so far. So that might also make me cry, but for a different reason. But yeah. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Centaurworld, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.